You know what they always say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. That's not always true, but when it comes to leaving a lasting impression, the finale is very important. I've done a video about the best finales in the past, but now let's break it down even further. Every manufacturer wants to hawk their product, and a big part of their selling pitch is guest experience. So they want to leave everyone satisfied and smiling. This is every manufacturer's best finale. First, I want to thank my Patreons and my new members, Coaster Paradise and I Love SLCs. If you want bonus access, bonus content, behind the scenes videos, a shout out when you join, and your name on this fancy Patreon screen, follow the link below and join. This was a very tough video to put together, especially for coasters I've never ridden. So if I missed a great finale for any of these manufacturers, I apologize in advance. For a video like this, it's very easy to overlook one. I also couldn't find a good finale for one manufacturer, and that of course is Skyline. Their coasters don't really have finales, unless you count when they get torn down, then they've had quite a few of them. Aerodynamics does really well with their coasters that end in double corkscrews, Viper at Magic Mountain being one of my personal favorites. And in the same park, you have Gold Rusher's awesome Helix finale. And speaking of mine trains, Runaway Mine Train at Great Adventure has an awesome ending over the water. But Aero actually has my favorite finale of all time, and that's on Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point. This is a run of triangle airtime hills that of course eject you out of your seat. Super strong in car 1 row 3, but I think it's even more enjoyable in the back row. Some of the best airtime you'll ever find. Art Engineering doesn't have a lot to choose from, but they have some coasters that have surprise endings. For me, Primordial at Lagoon has their best finale. This has 6 different possible endings. All of them sound good, even though I only got to experience one. A nice way to end the shooting dark ride coaster and offer up a thrill. B&M makes all kinds of different coasters. Some end with a splashdown, others end with great airtime moments. But for me, their best finales come with inversions. I think Thunderbird's Roll Through the Shack is awesome, but there is one iconic finale they've held on to for over 3 decades now. That's Flight Deck at California's Great America. This opened in 1993 and was one of their first coasters they ever built, custom for this plot of land, and that final corkscrew and helix over the lake is so iconic. It's intense, it scrapes the water. This is an all-timer. Custom Coasters International, or CCI, has a harder time making an epic finale. It's just not as easy with wooden coasters. Some would say Pegasus at Mount Olympus. That's epic for other reasons, but not in a good way. If you want airtime, you might want to look at Boulder Dash at Lake Compounce. This dives off the mountain and into a long run of airtime hills to finish. I'm going with Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm. This one starts off with one of the best lateral moments on any coaster. The unbanked helix over the first drop, throws in the head chopper element, and ends with a pop of airtime before the final brakes. Chance Rides has an easy one, so I won't mess around with it. Lightning Run at Kentucky Kingdom. This ends with a sharp run at airtime hills, and if you're not stapled by this point, you're gonna go flying out of your seat no matter which row you're in. The Din Corporation has some decent coasters. None of them have much of a finale. So, like we always do, let's include one of the original Charles Din coasters here, the Beast. This has an awesome finale, falling off that second lift with a super shallow drop, building all that speed into the tunnel, exploding into a massive inclined helix, something that's even more intense at night. But no matter when you ride it, it's chaos, it's speed, it's intensity, it's laterals, a great ending to an epic ride. E&F Myler has some pretty good janky airtime machines, but their best finale is on Canyon Blaster at Magic Mountain and his 2 twin brothers, Wilderness Run at Carowinds and Bubbles the Coaster at Storybook Land. Those little airtime pops while it's turning to the station are kinda jarring, something you wouldn't expect on a kid's coaster, but you see everyone flopping around the finale and it's kinda awesome. Great Coasters International, or GCI, also makes wooden coasters, so of course, it makes standout finales that much harder. I'm targeting Lightning Racer at Hershey Park, a true dueling wooden coaster, and after crossing paths and racing alongside the whole ride, it goes into a double up, barreling towards the finish line, giving a little pop of airtime before finding out the most important aspect of the ride: who wins, lightning versus thunder. Gerstlauer has a bunch of different elements they can end their coasters with, especially their most popular Eurofighter and Infinity models. Defiance at Glenwood Caverns may be a short ride, but the way it uses an inline twist to rise up into the final brake run, that's just awesome. Still, I think this honor goes to Mystery Mine at Dollywood. The whole ride up to this point is pretty underwhelming, but that 85-foot, 95-degree drop into the dark, going into a heartline roll in a dive loop, talk about a backloaded ride. If they could capture that level of awesomeness in the rest of the ride, this would be in my top 10. Giovanola doesn't have much to choose from, but they do have some legendary finales. I'm choosing Goliath at Magic Mountain over Titan at over Texas, mainly because it seems like Goliath is leading up to that helix for the whole ride, while Titan actually has a better helix before the mid-course brake run. Goliath's grand finale is a long 585-degree helix, slowly draining your brain of all its blood, finally pulling out of it before you black out. For those who love intensity, this one's a real crusher. The Gravity Group is our last modern wooden coaster company, and they've built some epic rides, but only one real epic finale. This of course is on Zip and Pippin at Bay Beach. That ejector death hill. If you watch a channel, you know all about this. It's that innocent looking airtime hill at the end, but for some reason, this launches your soul out of your body, and if you're not expecting it, it's one of the most jarring experiences of your life, coaster or no coaster. Hopkins built a few weird coasters in their day, and when it comes to finales, give me Texas Tornado at Wonderland. This ride looks like a disaster, but it actually runs pretty smooth. That's why you can enjoy that final drop into the jankiest looking loop of all time. Funny enough, it runs so much better than DCA's Incredicoaster, strange but true, into a dark shack where the train jerks right and then up into the final brakes. Intamin has a ton to choose from, and even then, with all these options, I'm sure I'm still missing some good ones. I've always liked Millennium Force's ending, speeding by the queue and banking over all the people waiting. In the same park, how can you forget Top Thrill Dragster's 400-foot vertical twisted spike? And speaking of twisted, Tornado at Bakken has one insane final downward spiral before popping into the brakes. That's the main highlight of the ride. But for Intamin, I'm going with Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure, that epic Mosasaurus roll. I was never super into this before this year, but I had such an awesome experience with it back in May, it shot up my list. It's really just a barrel roll, taking place right over the water. The way the train dives into it is pretty crazy, and the perfect way to end a 4,700-foot ride. Jinma was a tough one, so I had to reach out to my Instagram followers. And thanks to HXNTZZ_1 and Bjarn ME for this idea. Tilt Track Coaster at Wowstock Happy Island in China. This is their Broken Rail, aka Tilt Coaster, ending with a downward helix and a corkscrew, followed by an inline twist that wraps around to the final brakes. It looks like a disorienting finale, and the best one I saw for Jinma. Mach Rides has come out with some great coasters in the last 10 years, and two finales really stand out. One is DC Rivals Hypercoaster at Movie World, and this one isn't that special. It's just a trio of great airtime hills that are great forward, and even better taken backwards in the back row. My pick is Helix at Leesburg. This terrain multi-launch coaster is one of the best in the world, and after it winds back up to the station level, it makes a right-hand turn and hits you with one last great element, an inline twist. This one hits you with hang time and the element of surprise. Maurer was another tough one also, so I asked my Instagram followers about this one, and a lot of you came to one conclusion. Frischutz at Bayern Park in Germany. This X-Car model is a very short ride, having a launch to start, and at the end, it goes into a heartline roll, dives all the way to the ground level, and hits one more heartline roll before blasting into the station. There's no room for brakes, so it overshoots the station and then backs its way into position. Morgan didn't build that many coasters, but they have some pretty good options. West Coaster at Pacific Park has a very intense dive and pop into the station, something that will give you good airtime in the front. Steel Dragon 2000 has the same run of airtime hills as all their hypers, but in my experience, the trim brakes were off and you get some really solid airtime at the end. But if it's airtime you want, you gotta get on Bantam's Revenge at Kennywood. This wasn't their coaster to begin with. They renovated this in 2001, but that finale is all theirs, a cascading series of airtime hills, ending with one last sharp one before the brakes. Pax is a Russian manufacturer I had a hard time with, and several of my Instagram followers suggested Cobra at Connieland in Switzerland. This is like a super shuttle loop, being pulled up backwards and sent into a long linear course with an airtime hill, a loop, and a scorpion tail. And I guess that whole return trip backwards is the finale. Loops and airtime hills are always better going backwards, so I'm sure this is a lot of fun. Pinfari makes mostly portable coasters, so one more time I had to go back to my Instagram followers, and I got a suggestion from Dr. Urine for Bulldog Coaster at Breen Theme Park in the UK, and I think this is about as good as you're gonna get. This looping jank machine has a sharp airtime hill before twisting to the final brakes, so even if it doesn't actually give you airtime, I'm sure you're still fearing for your life. Premier Rides just came out with possibly their top coaster, Alpenfury at Canada's Wonderland. That ends with a 0G roll and a bunny hop into the brakes. This might be the best finale, I'm just not sure about that yet. Full Throttle has a great finale, but it's also a maddening one, flying up and over a massive vertical loop before hitting the brake run as you're falling. For that blasted brake run, I can't give the honor to Full Throttle. I'm gonna give this to Poltergeist at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, and its Spaghetti Bowl clones, Joker's Jinx at Six Flags America, and the two Flight of Fear coasters. The whole ride, you're building speed as you wind your way to the ground, and it feels like the whole ride is leading up to that final corkscrew before popping into the final brakes. It's wild, kinda janky, and super intense. Philadelphia Toboggan Coasters, or PTC, has made a lot of old school coasters that are still around today, and one of the greatest finales on any coaster, let alone on a PTC, is Phoenix at Knoebels. Front row, back row, you're going to be flying out of your seat in the final run of Airtime Hills, held in by nothing but a buzz bar. This finale gets a lot of love, and it lives up to the hype. Rocky Mountain Construction, or RMC, is great at finales. I'd say, more often than not, their finales are impressive. Steel Vengeance and Air Force One have a great run of Airtime Hills to end. Lightning Rod has the awesome quad down. Iron Rattler has the cliff dive. One of the best airtime moments ever. But I'm giving this the Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. Yeah, not an airtime moment, but a double barrel roll. Mind you, this is a wooden coaster, and they end this rapid fire ride with an incline double inversion, cruising into the brakes. Such an impressive element and a creative way to end the ride. The Roller Coaster Corporation of America, or RCCA, has just a few coasters in their portfolio, but they were partially responsible for that great Iron Rattler finale. They built the original Rattler at Fiesta, Texas, and that had a twisted drop into the cliff, actually into a tunnel inside the quarry wall. It ended with a few janky turns, but for the sake of argument, let's call that ambitious quarry tunnel as the ride's true finale. SNS Worldwide has one of the most diverse collection of coasters, and before this summer, I may have said El Loco at the Adventure Dome. That has a great hang time moment that drops you right into the final breaks. But after visiting Fuji-Q Highland, the best finale is absolutely Aija Naika. It's so insane, it doesn't even seem like it should be real. The train ripping into that final Raven turn and twisting back on top of the track. The lateral whip is just nuts, and it's going so fast into the brake run. They designed it so your seat tips all the way forward so you're face down. Please, for the love of God, ride this one defensively. The SBF Visa Group doesn't make a lot of big coasters, so I'm saying the best one is on Migfur at Wonderland Eurasia. That tiny loop is the last element. Also, it's kind of the first element, and it looks wild. Schwarzkopf has a lot of good coasters that have stood the test of time, but I haven't found too many that have a good finale. Riddler Mindbender has that dive into its final loop and a twist back to the station, but I'm going with Bullet at Selva Magica, the entire backward section. This is a twisted up shuttle loop, and going up that second spike and back down into the loop backwards has gotta be an intense moment. Togo would have been another hard one to pick for up until this year. Now it's painfully obvious. Fujiyama at Fuji-Q Highland. This finale is like Magnum, just twisted. It's a nice run of 5 airtime hills, just with a lateral twist. So you get most of the power of Magnum, but instead of getting tossed straight up, you're getting tossed laterally. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's actually hilarious, and I personally loved it. Vekoma has been coming on strong as of late. So many great coasters have opened up over the past 10 years, and for the best finale, I'm looking at their flying coaster. I love how low to the ground Batwing and Firehawk got during that helix. That's the best that I've ridden, but looking at Fly at Phantasialand, I think that one takes the cake. It seems to get lower and lower to the ground as the ride goes along, diving through all the alleys of Rookburg, and it has a water ending, flying over fountains in a pool, getting super close, then twisting into the final building in the final breaks. Vegan makes alpine coasters, and it's hard to make a finale on an alpine coaster stand out. From the ones I've ridden, the best finale is on Mountain Coaster at Park City Mountain Resort. This has that long run of straight track that goes over the bridge, which also serves as a lift hill on the lower level, hangs a right, and then goes into a bunch of little buddy hops before it hits the brakes. Not great, but definitely different. Samperla could claim that Top Thrill 2 is their best finale, but they didn't design that 400-foot spiral. That's all Intamin, so I had to scrounge a bit to find something to use. Zamperla doesn't make a lot of big coasters, so I settled on Thunderbolt at Luna Park. This linear coaster is full of inversions, but it's all about the airtime on that return trip. 3 airtime hills with a corkscrew thrown into the middle. The trains aren't comfortable, so it's not all that pleasant, but it's still a good time. Zero also makes a lot of smaller coasters, but they have their collection of the big good stuff. When it comes to finales, I have to give the edge to Verbolten at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Not only is that 88-foot drop into the river cool on its own, it's also a tribute to the coaster it replaced, Big Bad Wolf, doing the exact same drop in the exact same spot. It winds around to the final breaks after, but that drop is really the beginning of the ride's grand finale. So there you go, every manufacturer's best finale. Let me know what you think of my picks. And remember, this was very hard to put together, and it's super easy for me to overlook one or be unaware of a ride that has a great finale. So if you have any other ideas, sound off in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. Also, check out my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.